This video is for anyone who is feeling this reoccurring feeling of feeling like an outsider, and that's pushing them to maybe reconsider a different lifestyle, maybe live on a beach, an ashram, remove themselves from the status quo, who's feeling really depleted, working under capitalism and wants an out. Most of my videos are reflections on my life, lived experiences, things that are arising for me internally in my subconscious and being connected to my conscious mind. I used to share, and I still will share, a lot of books, videos, things that I want to recommend as far as podcasts and resources that are outside of ourselves, but we all have so much wisdom within us and so many stories and lessons that are actually working to move our journey and our soul forward. So if you've enjoyed these videos thus far, please like this video and subscribe to stay in the loop for new uploads every Wednesday. So if you are feeling like an outsider, which I regularly do as an Aquarius sun and rising in Saturn, then you might be in the position of reconsidering, sometimes not being a part of groups, reconsidering your entire lifestyle. A theme that arises for me is, why do I live among this culture that doesn't feel in congruence or in alignment with my values? Reoccurringly, this thought arises of, how do I remove myself from the collective? How do I separate myself? How do I create more separation? And that is a lower vibrational place to be working from, right? A higher vibrational place is usually moving from the journey of love. How can I be more leaned in discomfort? How can I step in further? And so when you get these indications within yourself of like, I need to pull out, I need to separate, maybe it's for a period of needing to cocoon and really listen to your inner world and not let that be overpowered by the outer noise. But sometimes it's also this part of the self. For me, I'll speak personally, it arises for me when I lose a sense of faith, when I get exhausted, when I get burnt out, when I feel fearful that there isn't going to be the progress that I'd like to see. Then it's kind of like hands in the air, a level of giving up. And so rather than acting from this defeated place and operating and taking actions and steps from a place of fear or lower vibrational places emotionally, then it's taking the step back, doing the introspection, and stepping back in with a sense of power, with a sense of joy, with a sense of purpose. And so I sort of did some writing around a dream that arose for me in addition to my general morning pages. So in this video, I'll be first sharing the dream that I had relating to being the outsider, and hopefully it's supportive to you in making some constructive analysis on how you can move forward in a way that supports your inner world in these group settings where you feel like an outsider, where you're feeling lonely or aloneness. And then I also want to share my morning pages, which is inspired by Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. She encourages doing morning pages each morning, and I've loved that practice and I've truly adopted it because there's so much of a flow state that arises for us when we just allow ourselves to express and process and really let it filter into my laptop lately or journal. And I love taking things that occur for me in my dream, the ones that I can vividly remember. I like try to recall even moments or themes or stories or symbolism, because I know that sometimes that is hugely supportive of me understanding what's going on in the subconscious or unconscious. And the more that we can kind of unblock that massive portion of our brain, the more that we can make decisions from such a more powerful, conscious, and integrated state, a state of wholeness. And so first I'll tell you about my dream, and then we'll go into the takeaways from it, how it can support you in your journey of feeling like an outsider, and then into morning pages, which is also a reflection on stepping away from that state of feeling like the outsider and actually to a place of feeling like you are awareness. So this week I had a dream that I was among this group of women. And this was one of these dreams that wasn't super vivid, but the takeaway from it was very potent. So I was around this group of women and we looked very similar. We were wearing the same outfits. I did this influencer event with Athleta, and you can look back on kind of that visual. And that's kind of the setting that it was. It's a place where there's a lot of sameness, invisibility, but the feeling that I felt internally was feeling like the other, was feeling really different. And in that place, I remember going through this journey of feeling like, okay, I'm surrounded by all these people who have similar values, yet I still feel so on the outside. How is that? And then moving to a place of what a playful state to be in, to be surrounded by all these people who might have similar appearances, but really unique expressions. We're all beautifully unique. We all have so many varying degrees of the same qualities. And the way that we express ourselves is different. The way that we like to move through the world is different. And I moved from this place of feeling so on the outside, being like, these should be my people, to being like, these are not my people, in a place of judgment and kind of looking around and sizing people up. And then being back into the awareness of we're all different and we're in a collective setting. And that's the beauty of it. Like, there's never a time where we're actually so othered. It's the mind that likes to separate us in these settings, in these environments, to notice differences and to think that that's the entirety of a person's identity. And it never is. I started to want to kind of test and touch the parts of people that they weren't honoring in their expression that would make them feel eccentric, and I felt obviously eccentric in this setting. But the more that I was able to kind of tap onto these people's little buttons and light up their uniqueness, the greater that I felt, the more included I felt. And I think that's kind of the takeaway as far as if you feel like an outsider, it's kind of encouraging others to allow their outsiderness, their eccentricity, their uniqueness to shine. It's not you pulling away from the group and labeling them as sameness and you as other. It's saying everybody within this collective is feeling like the outsider more often than not. And it's about enough people coming back into the fold, and that is you, if you're listening to this video, coming back into the fold and being encouraging of us noticeably having these conflicts and tensions and like this kind of sparkiness, right? So if we were all like fully fluid and stuff, that'd be a little bit boring, but we live in a world where there's a lot of contrast, and the more that we can celebrate that, the better that it can be. But it takes people not just removing themselves from society. And so it makes me think to like the 60s and just hippie movements of people separating themselves and living in communes, or spiritual communities being isolated from the norm and the culture. And there is a beauty to needing to preserve energetically the potency of values and maintain that counterculture to some extent. And then it's about like also bringing it back into the mainstream, into the collective. And I think that's what more people are doing right now with YouTube and with the amount of social media that exists. You and everybody in your life can really express themselves and be an influencer on someone. And so it's a special time to exist. It's a special time for you to take personal accountability and responsibility in moving forward, and know your power and know that your feeling of difference is your special secret sauce that you will use to move forward in the world. Next, I did some writing on this, morning pages, and I want to share that with you. Embrace the observer in you is the affirmation of the day. There's a difference between the observer and the outsider. The main differentiation is the observer has neutrality, a non-attachment to being inside or outside. To them, there aren't even sides. They could even see themselves as loving awareness and inside of everyone. The outsider is over-identified with the body, this container of their soul. They latch to the ego who says they are other. It brings them to an imagined place in a circle of people at the perimeter. There they sit in loneliness, separateness, thinking maybe if I see signs that someone is like me, then I'll re-enter the group and be an insider again. Maybe if I find a lover, we'll be a we. Or if I remove myself to live with others who feel othered, then we'll get each other. They could do this and feel part of the whole again, but there's another option: to feel wholeness, not a part, not a part, just being here, whole. Awareness is in the body and beyond it. It resides wherever we put its focus. When in a group, it rests in non attachment, non judgment, and from that perspective, it sees everyone as a mirror, reflecting specks of self back to itself. It holds a love for all and the varying uniqueness that each person contains. Awareness knows that it carries that too. It's excited to see others honor their eccentricity, to feel other too. Awareness feels what the outsider doesn't. Whole, loved, grounded wherever they go. The aspiration is not to escape, to go elsewhere, to live somewhere else, but to return to awareness again here. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that that takeaway feels resonant with you. The move from being the outsider to being awareness, to allow yourself to express and go through the introspection and the journey of processing, why am I feeling this feeling, and is it a reoccurring theme that lives in my subconscious that's kind of starting to run my life a little bit more than I would like. And in those moments we can bring ourselves back, because that is awareness. It's the observer of everything that's going on within us, outside of us, beyond us. It's a really beautiful thing to have the reminders to sink back into self in these moments that we want to escape being in our bodies. It's almost like we're trying to escape the most powerful love that we can ever experience, which is love of the divine, love of the self, love of other people. It all rests in the same place within us. And so to really immerse ourselves in the feeling of that, rather than escaping to find something outside of ourselves in a new place, in a new setting, in a new environment, around new people all the time. And there are times where it makes sense, but if it's reoccurring like it is for me, then it's worth just being here and kind of sitting with it at times and understanding what's behind it. So, thank you for tuning in. I'm wishing you a deep sense of belonging. I appreciate you being here. Much love.